As you can see by the title underneath this video called Last Video, which that one that was uploaded last night was my last video, and you guys will probably see in a bit of a teaser snippet. But this one right here is more so of, I guess, in the lines of bonus content, not so much as a new video, but bonus content nonetheless. And honestly, I've seen some pretty downright bad shit a couple days ago. And one thing as black people down here in the South, we only want to be fans and supporters of someone when the time is accurate. Again, I want to repeat what I just said. Us as black people down here in the South, we only want to be fans and supporters when it's accurate. And I'm going to abbreviate. Yeah, you know, we got somebody that's on the football team who's in the NFL, right? And I don't even know the exact timeline I want to pursue in this, but you know, we got somebody that's in the NFL. Well, everyone wants to be a fan of his and support him because he's did a couple of things for the community here. Nothing too big. You know, he gave some gifts to McDowell Elementary, which I'm all for. But through a bit of a block party, but there's nothing else that really shows that anybody showed up. Okay, so he got the key to the damn city. Well, if you go back about, I'm going to say 11 years ago, and I say 11 years ago because I got out of school 11 years ago. So I really don't know who this young man is, because I'm at least 7 years the most, older than he is. Now, you take a look at that exact timeline, right? So I was out of school before him, and that also makes 11 years ago when he was on the high school football team. And then you go into a bit of those years prior to that when he was probably on the draft list to getting a football scholarship, I would imagine. You didn't see no one champion him, supporting him, or being a fan of his then. And the only time when we want to do that is when, one, it's somebody who we don't know, because there has been a lot of newcomers here since then. Two, we champion and support people who we don't know a lot. Three, we only want to be fans and supporters when it's accurate, because we like going to free events and hoping that, hey, oh, they from the same town as me, maybe I can sponge off them for a while, because they seem to be so generous and stuff like that. You know, it just doesn't fly. And especially when you're reaching out to someone to use them to promote whatever it is that you're doing, when you already have maybe a buzz of some sort, a good big platform, but you're thinking, well, maybe this guy has more clout than I do, much more of a following base. Hey, I'm gonna reach out to him and use them, even though you never want anything to do with this person, you know, before. And that right there, with what I explained already, within these 5 minutes, is the true actual definition of dick riding. So everyone's dick riding this young man. But any other time, we don't. Any other time, we don't care about people. Any other time, we're not going to support or be fans of someone or want anything to do with anybody. But we only want to do that when it's accurate. Any other time, we just don't give a fuck. And everyone wants to say, oh, well, now we're fans of this team because somebody who's from Tennessee is on that team. Well, you guys only want to be fans of that team when this young man went to the Super Bowl twice. But any other time, we really don't care about each other. Which also goes into me saying that is because we have somebody here, a good friend of mine who's an SO officer, or who was an SO officer, who's now locked up just for doing his job. And I explained a good majority about that in a previous video that's called Self-Defense. And I want everyone to check that out. So I will be linking that video in the description of this one. And a good majority of us in the black community, surprisingly, had a lot of harsh comments towards this individual, towards my friend. All because he was doing his job. Everyone was saying, fuck him. Oh, I hope he rots in there. He's a pig, or just all types of comments, man, from the black community that was so fucking harsh. And a good majority of these people are people that who obviously pretend to be his friend from the get-go and show fake support. But when it was an actual time and need of somebody who's actually innocent, it just chose to prove my point. And a lot of these other videos I've done on this channel that, oh, he's guilty because we've seen proof of him being innocent. Again, when there's evidence in front of us of somebody who is innocent, we already go ahead and label them as guilty. Not to mention a lot of these movements that a lot of people claim to support, like the NAACP or the Black Lives Matter movement, shouldn't be supporting those. We shouldn't be supporting those as black people, man. Because my friend was a spokesman leader of the NAACP of Columbia. And rather than going to his side, you know what they did? They decided to turn his back on him, throw him underneath the bus, and drop him. And then go support somebody who was white. The church that he used to go to, plus the church that he preached to, they turned his back on him and decided to throw him underneath the bus and not support him, and then label him as guilty. The NAACP and the Black Lives Matter movement are actually both of them are both white funded, white supported, and owned by somebody who was white. Really look into it. Because of that, a lot of them, of both of these movements, time and time again, and the evidence is really out there. It's out there. And there are a lot of videos, the people who are black in the communities actually spoke against both NAACP and the Black Lives Matter movement, and actually expose them to how much they don't care about black people. And again, there's videos out there, that show them standing up for somebody who was white rather than black. And the only reason why they even accept black people is because, believe it or not, what you're not going to hear about, there's actually a charge fund. Oh, you want to come join us? Okay, well, in order to help us and kind of support us. We do have this charge fund fee, and the money goes to such and such thing. Well, in reality, that sounds good. A good speech that comes from, a white person that's going to give you that speech in those groups, who it usually is a white person that approaches like newcomers, right? We're going to give a good speech. So we're going to give them the money to join, and then they're going to throw in, well, this is also going to be, the money goes towards charity events. When in reality, it doesn't, because both of those movements keep that money. If it was a black person that we seen doing that, we wouldn't give them the money. And it just goes to show how much that, again, when it comes to somebody who we don't know, we only want to be fans and support them when it's accurate. Any other time, we don't want shit to do with them. But when it's somebody who we do know, somebody that actually has a voice, somebody that actually showed empowerment of trying to do something positive for the community and speak, and then all of a sudden, they get arrested, also presented with evidence that they are innocent and that they were just doing their job, we already go ahead, label them as guilty, turn the other cheek, and bash them so damn much. And especially those that claim that they knew this individual, that say, oh, well, that was my homie, that was my friend. Well, if he was your friend, why the fuck you ain't support him? Because you turned your back on him, which already showed your true colors. And of course, what has the other guy done? Really nothing. He ain't said or spoke on anything about that. No. Because it's obviously he was looking out for himself. And again, that's what we always do. We always support people that, always do look out for themselves. And that's just the type of world we live in. And a lot of this comes from us as black people down in the South, because that's just what the hell we do. Seriously, that's what the hell we do. And it's quite fucking sad to see that, because, again, we support somebody who we don't know, somebody who we never gave a shit about 11 years ago, plus 5 years ago as well. But when there's money involved in a free event, we want to be fans and supporters when it's accurate, so we can sponge off this individual. And that is dick riding. When it comes to somebody who we do know, somebody that actually does something good, somebody who has used their voice, somebody who has given back out of their own pockets even when they didn't have it. And then when they get in trouble, right, even though they didn't do anything wrong, and plus when we're presented with evidence to show their innocence, we like to play stupid and blind to the fact that, oh, I don't want to see this, so I'm going to go ahead and label you as guilty and turn my back on you and throw you underneath the bus. And that goes towards his friendship, because his true friends showed their colors and just said, fuck him, I'm going to turn my back. That is sad as hell. Both of the Black Lives Matter movement and the NAACP movement turned his back on him, especially the NAACP, who he is a spokesman leader of, turned his back on him, threw him underneath the bus. So both movements that you are support of, especially when you're a leader of one of them, when they turn your back on you, it's because they did it because they were scared. And that is sad to see. And it's even more sad is when you have both churches that even label as guilty. It's because they're scared too, and they turn their back and they want to be hypocrites. Of course, church is a hypocritical place to go to, if not misleading. And that's just how we are as black people down here in the South. Now me, I'm originally from up north, even though I've been down here since I was 3 years old. And I can tell you, those type of actions that I just explained would have flied over in the East Coast. Those type of actions that I explained never would have flied over in the East Coast, because there would have been bad consequences during that. Plus, we have no leaders down here either. So,
I am tripping. You'd trip too if you didn't have no goddamn legs.
again, I'm just, it just doesn't surprise me. At the same time, it does surprise me. We have no leadership down here in the South. And I even spoke on why we don't have heroes down here in the South, which I'll also be linking that video in the description below as well. Because the people who we idolize is, the neighborhood crackhead, sadly. Shit like that's just, it's a very sad thing to see. But, that's just how it goes. Again, those type of actions, over in the East Coast wouldn't fly. And a lot of those people who would dick ride on somebody who they don't know and only want to be fans and supporters when it's accurate to sponge off someone, would have been dealt with heavily. The East Coast, if it was based off one, the West Coast, if it was based off one area going into a specific spot of a radius of a certain block mileage, and if it was just within your own side, within your own radius of that block, and somebody trying to do something, yeah, you would be supportive. But if you were to go outside of that and try to expand and to get other communities together, then yeah, you would have that one bad apple who would ruin it for everyone. No doubt about that. But sadly, here in down south, we let those kind of actions slide and fly and ignore them because we have no leadership and we don't know any better. So, not else too much I can say. It's just that, again, us as black people down here in the South, we are a very sad group of individuals because we only want to be fans and supporters of someone who we don't know when it's accurate, just to sponge and dick right off them. When it's somebody who we know who does need our help and our voices to be used, we go ahead and throw them underneath the bus and look the other way. And the only group of people that did support this individual, my friend, who was locked up for being innocent just because he was doing his job, was the white community. The white community stood up for him rather than the black community, and that is saying a lot. So again, this is also just bonus content. I will be linking my last video in the description of this one, followed up by the self-defense video, self-defense laws, and also why we don't have heroes down in the South. And of course, again, we're a very sad group of individuals down here because we like to be fans and supporters when it's accurate to sponge and dick right off someone who we don't know, versus when it's someone who we do know who does need our help, we ignore them and throw them underneath the bus and only care about supporting people who we don't know. And of course, giving our monies to these false movements who are actually white owned and stand for whites and not for blacks. And those movements are the Black Lives Matter movement and the NAACP. And again, throughout history, they have showed time and time again why they don't care about black people. You add a bit to it, you know, to give some history. When you make it to a certain level, you don't come back. And that's one thing that we forget about when it comes to certain rules and laws. Because down here in the South, again, we know we don't have anybody to guide us. We don't have leadership. So, if you make it out of struggling, but you choose to keep coming back and drive around nice fancy cars with also having money and nice things, you know, we're going to want to sponge off that big time. But it's only a matter of time until it gets to a certain point where we don't want it no more, and eventually violence will break out, which will turn to somebody getting killed, which usually that individual coming through who made it to a certain level. And, you know, down here in the South, you know, again, we let that shit go for so long until we choose for something to happen. You know, on the East Coast, you know, they don't put up with that. You know, once you get to a certain point, a certain level, you know, you don't come back around. You just don't do it. You come back around, then you're going to have to bring something for people who are trying to get on, or who's going to need help a bit with some rent or financial, you know, checking in like, hey, what can you do for certain individuals here to give back? Here are a list of people. And then here's a certain amount of time that you can stay. But if you just constantly keep showing up, you know, flashing, you know, they're going to clap at you, no questions asked. Same thing with the Midwest area. You know, Midwest is the same way. Thing is about the Midwest, you know, once you make out, you know, you stay out of it. You know, you don't come back around. You choose to come back around, they're just going to kill you on sight. And that's all there is to it. And the same thing with the West Coast area. You know, West Coast, you know, you make it out, that's good. You know, don't come back around. You come back around, they're just going to start clapping at you. And they're going to take whatever it is that you have on you. So when it comes to the East Coast and Midwest and West Coast, you know, once that one warning or to no warning, and after you get hit, you know, they all are going to take what you're going to have on you. You know, just take a look at X, for example. You know, he kept coming through his neighborhoods where he stayed at in Florida. The judge kept saying not do that, but eventually he ended up getting clapped. You know, and that shit happens. And he got his shit took from him. But down here in the South, we let that shit slide so much that we rather just sponge and dick right off the person and support someone and be a fan of someone when it's accurate. And we need to start having check-ins again. We do. Also, again, versus when someone who does need our help, someone who's fighting for their freedom, someone who is innocent, you know, we just turn our backs on them and throw them under the bus. It's sad, but, you know, again, that's how we are down here in the South, and we do need check-in rules again in the streets, and we do need to start supporting our own people who do need the support versus the people who don't need the support. I'm not too certain much more I can say, how much more I can give within this video, but again, this is just bonus content, and certain videos will be linked in the description below, and I'm out.